How y'all doing? It's Book Spring Peace, and today we're going to do our summer book review. Now, must clarify, I am missing a book because I borrowed it from someone, but don't worry, I'll go over it and I'll add a picture of it. It'll be good. So this summer, as I'm starting out my channel, I'm trying to get back into reading. I know what y'all are going to say, shouldn't you always be reading? And I'm like, yes, I am. But this summer, I went over about 6.5 books, give or take, maybe even 7, I'm not entirely sure. But we're just gonna go in order. We're gonna recap all of the book reviews that we've done in case you've missed out on it. The first book that we read as the first book review for this channel is The Servants of Twilight by Dean Koontz. Now, I've mainly been reading Stephen King as my source for horror, but I've become fond of Dean Koontz as well. I haven't read many of his other works, but this was the first book that I've read of his, and I enjoyed it. There are some things that I'll criticize about it, but I'll mainly want to give it props. I love the idea of this book. This book is so good. Sure, are there things I would have tweaked for the plot? Yes, but I think Dean Koontz has his reasons for writing what he's written in this way. And I think I need to read it again before I go into detail about stuff about it. I will say, some things I'd like to point out is the very beginning is beautifully written. I absolutely love it. I wish the ending was a little more climactic, but that's just a personal preference, and I don't want to spoil it in case y'all haven't read it, even though this book's been out for years and years. Next book we have is The Shining by Stephen King. I read this while I was at the beach. I read this in about 2 weeks, a little less. And what I really love about it is that Stephen King's literally able to pack so much into this with telling a very specific story. And you know, a lot about Kubrick's movie is that there's just so many different iconic scenes that just add into what makes this so iconic. But Stephen King had an entirely different thing in store. And the physical story itself is a lot more compact, but it also carries so much more. And he goes into detail about how that's basically removed from Kubrick's movie adaptation. I'm gonna be posting another video about my opinions of books and their adaptations into movies and things that I enjoy and things that I don't necessarily agree with, but that's for later content. Specifically speaking about this, I love this plot, I love the idea, I love the setting, and there's so much detail that goes into it, and I can't wait to read it again, whether it's, I don't know, a year from now or many years from now. I definitely love this, and it's easily one of my favorite Stephen King books. Next up is a book I read called The Little Liar by Mitch Albom. Now, this book was really good because it's similar to a book I've read in the past called Salt to the Sea, where it talks about World War II. Both are about World War II, and they both go along with a journey with 4 people throughout the progression of World War II. Now, one sticks with specifically in the setting of World War II, but The Little Liar goes beyond and about the life that goes beyond World War II into what's 50 years later, I believe. I can't remember. Story, what it does is that it starts from one specific point, and then it like intertwines and mingles and separates into 4 different plot lines. And these 4 different plot lines, they become mixed and mingled until it ties to a conclusion that is really good. I definitely recommend this book because Mitch Albom, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but you need to read it, wrote Tuesdays with Morrie, and it's a critically acclaimed book, and I have not read it yet, but I am in my younger years and I have many books to read, so y'all can't judge me for it. But it is a critically acclaimed book, very popular, and I definitely recommend The Little Liar and Tuesdays with Morrie for y'all. Next up, we have an all-time classic, To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, y'all know this book takes place in Alabama, good old Alabama, and what I really like about this book is it's so down to earth. Look, you're just going into the day-to-day lifestyle of Scout and Dill and Jim, and I mean, like, the little adventures that you would see in Alabama. You know, you'd roll around in tires and you'd go hunting in the woods to try to find some water bugs or whatever. And so they had so much fun and they had such innocent youth. But the thing about this book is that there's anything but innocence. I love how the story is told by a youth, in that it's from a youth's perspective just changes everything. Because in a way, Harper Lee's sort of educating America at this point, that they need to learn the basics of human equality from a child's perspective, and that's honestly humbling to America back when this was published. And so, I mean, the symbolism and the detail goes far beyond just the perspective. And I mean, I could make an entire video on this, but I'm gonna leave it as it's definitely deserved the awards it's made out to be, and I definitely recommend reading this book. I say that for a lot of things, but I truly mean it for this one. Next up, we have another good classic, The Last Babylon by Pat Frank. Now, I went into a lot of detail in my YouTube short about this, but this is basically the most down-to-earth, most realistic dystopian novel you'll ever read. I mean, I could just picture this happening, not in a cinematic, fictional sense. I mean, literally happening, because a lot of this type stuff very much could have happened. And I love how realistic and how vivid he describes things, and how people plan to survive, and how people gather together. And so, yes, this is a racially divided America during segregation, but I mean, this was so good, the way everyone was tied in during times of need, and the story is really captivating. And I will warn you, the first 100 pages, nothing's gonna explode, so you don't really get to anything. Sorry about that. Until about 100 pages in, and then it really picks up from there. And so I definitely recommend this book, and I hope you read it. Lastly, we have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Now, I've read this book before, and oh man, it was such a treasure to read it again. I was in a bit of a time crunch because I really wanted to read another book after this. And so I rushed through it. And I mean, I remembered most of the stuff, but there were some things that I hadn't picked up on, which I was really grateful to pick up on again. And I love how Miss Skloot implements her life story into Henrietta Lacks and into her children's story. Yes, this is a non-fictional book that's supposed to document the story of Henrietta Lacks, but it also goes into a personal discovery, which was very important for Skloot. And I really admire that for her. I couldn't imagine spending years and years and years having to be so patient to write this. And the way it just turned out, it obviously paid off, because I mean, it's a big risk writing a book like this. And so I'm really glad it paid off for her. It paid off for Henrietta's family, Miss Lacks's family. And I definitely do recommend reading this book for y'all. Before I close today, I just want to make some reiterations for my Bookspring Peace Bros out there. So I am sorry I have been slacking on my content, and I do apologize for that. I've had a lot on my plate, and I'm gonna get back into the swing of things, and I know I said that a few weeks ago, and I apologize for that. But I definitely am going to implement it into my schedule. And I also want to bring a book update. My editing is going very well, and I think it'll be finished very soon. And once I get my first phase done, I'm gonna read through my manuscript again. And then there's another person I want to send this off to before I send it to a publisher and have them review it. Because as much as I like to think that I'm a good writer, I still find flaws, and I think of flaws in the middle of the night over every single thing I read. I'm like, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. But I mean, there's a certain point that all authors have to say, okay, I'm not going to add anything else. There's an infinite amount of things I can change and I can alter to my book to make it quote unquote better. But I'm gonna leave it at this because I am confident in what it has to achieve. All authors have to do this. And so it's still a process I'm working through. But until I get there, I'm just gonna keep chugging along and I'm gonna give you all updates. Until next time, bye.